The video ain't really the issue. The video being posted up on social media is the issue. If someone would have sent her that video privately, she and I would have had one conversation about it, then it would have been over.
They say the truth sets you free. But in Atlanta this week, it didn't set anyone free. It set the whole city on fire. Inside a packed courtroom, you could hear every heartbeat echo off the marble walls. T.I. sat at the defense table, arms crossed, jaw tight. Tiny was a few rows away, shaking, her mascara already smudged. But all eyes were on the woman standing in the center, Shekinah Anderson, once Tiny's best friend, now her greatest threat. She didn't come with a lawyer. She didn't come with a speech. She came with a flash drive. When the judge asked if she had evidence to support her statement, Shekinah's voice trembled. But her hand didn't. They wanted the truth, she said. So here it is.
They heard me say it. I said that. If I was on there, I said that.
Turn around, please. You did not.
Shekinah, you stopped them and I said the same. You asked me, do you think I'm happier that you asked me the question and I answered it? So why would you sit there and say that?
Because I am happy.
But why would you sit there and say that I ain't say that?
Because you didn't.
I think she's happy. Yes, I did.
It wasn't loud and clear.
Tell me. Yeah? Tell me what's going on out there. What's going on?
What happened next froze the whole room. The lights dimmed slightly as the clerk loaded the file. The screen flickered, then came to life. At first, nobody understood what they were seeing. Then gasps filled the air. The footage was raw, real, and impossible to forget. Tiny clapped her hand over her mouth. "Turn it off!" she shouted. "Please!" The judge's gavel slammed once, twice, but no one moved. Cameras clicked like gunfire. Reporters scrambled over benches trying to capture every frame. T.I. sat motionless, eyes locked on the screen. His lawyer leaned in, whispering something urgent, but he didn't blink. Every image seemed to carve deeper into him.
Left and went and got a house somewhere else.
Because you started cheating. Yes, sir.
For those who don't understand, Tip had some infidelities with a girl who I hired, and that girl is one of the reasons why I got my own house.
I ain't intertwining my souls with no mother.
Hey, look, man, let me tell you
I ain't doing none of that. It's totally different from what you're doing.
"Order," the judge barked. "This is a court of law, not a circus." But the circus was already in full swing. The video played for less than 2 minutes, but it was enough. Enough to shake a family, enough to end friendships, enough to send the entire Harris brand spiraling. When the screen finally went black, the silence was unbearable. Then Tiny whispered, almost too soft to hear, "You were my sister, Shekinah. How could you do this?" Shekinah's lip quivered, but she stood her ground. "Because you wouldn't listen when I tried to protect you." The judge rubbed his temples, trying to breathe through the chaos. "Ms. Anderson, do you understand what you've done?" This footage wasn't cleared for admission. "I understand," she said quietly. "But if I didn't show it here, no one ever would." That one line hit harder than anything else that morning. Even people in the gallery stopped whispering. For a moment, it wasn't about fame or scandal. It was about betrayal and what happens when silence gets too heavy to carry. Tiny broke down completely, shoulders shaking. Security moved in to guide her out, but she refused to stand. Her voice cracked. "You ruined everything!" Shekinah's eyes softened. "No, Tiny, it was already ruined. I just stopped pretending." By the time the judge called for recess, the courtroom was chaos. Reporters rushed the aisles. Someone fainted. Lawyers argued over admissibility, while interns fought over copies of the footage. Outside, the story had already escaped. News vans idled at the curb. Social feeds lit up with shaky videos, captions claiming Shekinah exposes the Harris family. Phones buzzed, screens flashed. Within minutes, the world was watching. Inside, though, everything slowed. Tiny sat in silence, staring at the empty screen like it still held her reflection. I stood, adjusted his tie, and walked out without a word, his face unreadable. And Shekinah, she just stood there trembling, her hands still white from gripping that flash drive. Nobody clapped, nobody spoke. It wasn't victory, it wasn't even justice. It was a reckoning, one that left everyone bleeding in different ways. As she finally turned to leave, the bailiff's voice echoed through the room. "Ms. Anderson, you may be held in contempt for this." She paused at the door. "Then at least I'll be held for something true." When she stepped into the hallway, the flashes blinded her. Cameras screamed her name. "Shekinah!" What was in the video? "Is it real? Are you afraid of retaliation?" She didn't answer. She just kept walking. Across town, the headlines were already changing. Talk shows were calling it the betrayal of the year. Bloggers claimed the footage revealed everything fans had suspected for years. Sponsors were reevaluating partnerships. And the Harris name, once Atlanta royalty, was now sitting on a powder keg. But if you asked Shekinah in that moment whether she regretted it, her answer would have been simple. No, they asked for truth. They just didn't expect it to hurt this much. And that's how a friendship that started in laughter ended in a courtroom. Two sisters divided by secrets, and a city trying to decide whose story to believe. By sundown, the truth had stopped being evidence. It had become entertainment. Every TV in Atlanta was tuned to the same story. Shekinah Anderson shocks courtroom, Harris family in crisis, the same clip played again and again. Her trembling hands, that flash drive, Tiny's broken cry, the judge yelling for order. Commentators were already choosing sides like it was a sport. Some called Shekinah brave, others called her bitter, but no one called her silent anymore. Inside her apartment, Shekinah sat by the window, watching her phone light up like a slot machine. Hundreds of messages, dozens of missed calls, some from journalists offering interviews, others from people she hadn't spoken to in years. She finally picked one up, her lawyer. His voice was tight. "Shekinah, do you realize what you just did?" She closed her eyes. "Yeah," she whispered. "I showed them." He sighed through the phone. "You might have also destroyed your entire career." She didn't answer. She didn't need to, because deep down, she already knew. Across the city, Tiny sat in the quiet of her dressing room. Makeup still on, hair still perfect, but her eyes, swollen, red, hollow. The reflection staring back at her didn't look like a wife or a star. It looked like someone who'd been publicly stripped of every secret she tried to keep buried. On the table next to her, a phone buzzed nonstop. Messages from producers, friends, even family. "Stay strong. Don't say anything. Go off, sis. Lawyer up." It was all noise, the kind of noise that makes you feel smaller with every buzz. And behind that closed door, Tiny finally let the tears fall. Not just because Shekinah had exposed her world, but because deep down, she knew why she'd done it. The truth might have been ugly, but parts of it were real. And real hurt worse than lies. Meanwhile, T.I. wasn't crying. He was strategizing. His house looked like a war room. Phones ringing, publicists pacing, lawyers drafting statements. His manager leaned in, voice low but sharp. "We get ahead of this tip. Deny everything. Control the story before she controls you." T.I. stared at the floor, eyes dark. "The story ain't the problem," he said. "It's who's telling it." He turned to his assistant. "Schedule a press conference. I'll speak my piece." But the internet wasn't waiting. It never does. Clips from inside the courtroom hit social media before the judge even left the bench. Twitter threads, think pieces, memes, everything spun out of control in real time. One headline read, "Former friend turns enemy, Shekinah's explosive evidence against Harris family." Another said, "Tiny in tears as T.I. silent during courtroom leak." And just like that, every talk show, every blog, every YouTube channel was dissecting a 90-second video that nobody had even verified yet. But Shekinah wasn't watching anymore. She was sitting in her car, parked on a side street, hands gripping the steering wheel, trying to catch her breath. She hadn't eaten all day. She hadn't slept either. The adrenaline had drained, leaving only that sick feeling of, what now? Her phone buzzed again, an unknown number. She almost ignored it, but something made her answer. The voice on the other end was shaky, familiar. "Shekinah." "Why?" "Tiny." For a moment, neither spoke. You could almost hear the years of friendship between the silence, the sleepovers, the laughs, the inside jokes that used to fill the space where pain now lived. Finally, Shekinah spoke. "You knew this day was coming." Tiny's voice broke. "Not like this. You left me no choice." "There's always a choice." "No," Shekinah said quietly. "Not when people only listen to you if you scream." The call ended with nothing fixed, nothing forgiven. Just two women, once sisters, now strangers, sitting on opposite sides of a truth they both helped build. By the next morning, T.I.'s team had already launched a full-blown PR counterattack. Press releases, leaked texts, carefully edited sources close to the family. They painted Shekinah as unstable, jealous, bitter. Old interviews resurfaced. Misquotes turned into proof. And it worked. Within hours, the tide started to turn. She's lying. She wants attention. She's just mad they cut her off. Shekinah watched her own image crumble online. The same people who called her brave yesterday were calling her crazy today. But she didn't cry. She didn't even flinch. She just whispered to herself, "This is what truth costs." Meanwhile, Tiny was learning a different kind of pain, the pain of being pitied. Reporters hounded her with, "Are you okay?" instead of "What really happened?" Her fans called her strong, but the word didn't feel like comfort anymore. It felt like a cage. At home, T. I filmed his statement, calm voice, rehearsed tone, everything polished. "We are the victims of a malicious act," he said. "We will let the truth come out in court." But behind that measured performance, something else simmered. Because deep down, T.I. wasn't afraid of losing public sympathy. He was afraid of losing control. And in that quiet fear, you could tell this wasn't over, because for every scandal that blows up, there's a second explosion waiting behind it. The courtroom was just the spark. The real fire was what came next. By the time the headlines started fading, the damage was already permanent. 3 lives, once intertwined by loyalty, fame, and friendship, were now orbiting separate worlds that would never cross again. Shekinah barely left her apartment. The blinds stayed closed. Her phone sat face down on the counter, buzzing every few minutes with messages she didn't dare open. The news kept replaying her face in slow motion. The trembling hand, the flash drive, the moment she changed everything. Outside, reporters camped on her street. Neighbors whispered when she went to get the mail. In a single day, she had gone from the woman who told the truth to the woman who ruined it all. Her lawyer came by once, warning about lawsuits, defamation, contempt, invasion of privacy. She just stared out the window and said quietly, "Let them." Meanwhile, Tiny's world felt quieter, but heavier. The cameras had stopped flashing, but the echo of humiliation still filled every room. She tried to scroll past the clips online, but her fingers always stopped at that frame, the one where she was crying in court. She remembered when she and Shekinah used to laugh until sunrise, back when loyalty felt easy. Now she couldn't even look at her reflection without seeing betrayal. Friends texted her words like "stay strong and rise above it," but they all felt empty. Strength didn't fix broken trust. And T.I., he didn't stop moving. Meetings, statements, damage control, every move calculated, every emotion buried. The more he tried to bury the scandal, the louder it echoed. At night, though, even he couldn't escape it. That video played in his mind, frame by frame, like punishment. He poured another drink, looked at his reflection, and muttered, "They really think they know me." The next morning, a new rumor hit the blogs. Exclusive sources claimed Shekinah was ready to leak more footage. It wasn't true, but the lie was enough to reignite the fire. Shekinah watched it spread from her couch. The internet spun wild theories, dissecting her motives, rewriting her story one post at a time. For the first time since that day in court, she felt real fear. Then a letter arrived. No return address. Just one line in neat handwriting. "You wanted the truth seen. Now everyone sees you." She stared at it for a long time before folding it away. Maybe it was from Tiny. Maybe from a stranger. It didn't matter. The meaning was clear. The world had turned its lens on her now. Days blurred together. The adrenaline was gone, replaced by silence. Regret moved in like a tenant that never leaves. In another part of the city, Tiny stood by her window watching reporters pack up their gear. Her phone buzzed, a notification she almost ignored. It was an old photo, her and Shekinah, arms around each other, smiling at something the world would never understand. For a moment, she wanted to call her. Then she remembered the courtroom and shut the screen off. Across town, Shekinah did the same. 2 phones, 2 women, both staring at memories that now felt like ghosts. The city eventually found new scandals to chase. The talk shows moved on. But for the people at the center of it, nothing truly ended. One night, Shekinah sat by her vanity, the same one she used to share with Tiny before shows. She whispered to the empty room, "If I hadn't pressed play, would they have ever listened?" There was no answer, just the hum of the city outside, indifferent and alive. Because in this world, truth doesn't always free you. Sometimes it exposes what was already broken. And somewhere out there, Tiny tried to sleep. I rehearsed another denial, and Shekinah stared at the glow of dawn creeping through her blinds, realizing the truth didn't make her a hero or a villain. It just made her unforgettable. If this story left you speechless, hit that like button. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Was Shekinah's act justice or revenge? And don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss what happens next. Because in this world, every truth has a sequel.